for this next video, I want to show you how you can take your drawing, your final drawing, and color it using the layer blending modes in Photopea or Photoshop if you're using Photoshop. To open up, I'm going to this is the document that I brought in. I had just done a tutorial video on using the sketch as a template for drawing with the pen tool, and I drew this grape jelly bean here. So I'm going to reopen, create a new document, bring my sketch in again. I'm going to close that real quick. File, new. Working with 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to call this blending mode. Actually, we'll call it digital paint. Digital paint. And I'm going to make it 8.5 by 11. If you're using this for your infographic, you could just title the document infographic, and then DPI at 300. Again, you can go 8.5 by 11 vertical, or you could go horizontal, so that's portrait or landscape. I'm going to bring in my sketch or my drawing, so I'm going to go open in place. And I had photographed this with my phone, and just find it from yesterday. There we go. And I downloaded it. I emailed it to myself, downloaded it, and then I can open it up from my downloads. And so this again, I'm doing an infographic about favorite jelly bean flavors, and we were looking at coconut, juicy pear, grape, bubblegum, and watermelon. And this was from my digital illustration class. So I'm going to show you now how you can take like these sketches that I have down here of the pear and the coconut, and you can bring in some color to them. So I'm going to start with the pear down here. And I'm just going to cut out the pear, put it on a new layer, and kind of hide the rest so that we can just focus on the pear here. So I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool, which is, you might see it underneath the rectangle select. And I'm just going to go around the pear tool, the pear drawing, and then close up the shape, creates a selection area. I'm going to go new layer via copy. Okay, now the other one I'm going to hide, and I'm just going to focus on the pear down here. And I could even, if I want to make it bigger, I can make it a little bit bigger for the purposes of demonstrating here. Okay, now the area all around, you can see that the color, it looks pretty gray, especially when seen against that black. So I can do a couple things. I can go into image adjustments, and if I go into levels right here, I can clean it up a little bit. I could bring in, that will just make the darks a little bit darker, but this will make the whites a little lighter. And so that helps a bit. I can slide the gray here a little bit left or right. Kind of cleans it up a little bit. Okay. And then I could use an eraser tool and just erase away. The eraser tool is right here, and I can make it bigger. I can go in and I can erase some of this stuff around the outside. Or the other thing is to use the magic wand tool. And if I use the magic wand tool and make a selection around it, you can see it's selecting a little bit on the inside here, which actually isn't really a big deal. If I wanted, there is a way I could deselect that out of there, but I'm gonna leave it for now. And I'll just hit delete and deselect. Again, we're just trying to clean it up. I'm gonna paint in this area, so it doesn't matter if it's just a little bit off-white. It's totally fine. And okay, so there's my pear, and now I'm going to create a layer for painting on top. So I'm gonna create a new layer, and let me just name some of these. I'm gonna name this pear, and I'm gonna go name color. So that's the color that's going to go in for the pear. Now I could guess, here's my color swatch thing down here, so I can click on this and I can guess and try to find a pear color that I think is good. Sometimes it's nice to work from a little bit of reference, and then you can really match the color to what's in some reference. So if I look up Google Images and I look up a pear, okay, I can find some images, some pears, and there's a really nice one. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into here, I'm going to go edit, paste. I'm going to call this reference. Delete that out of there later. There it is. Bring this down here, and now I can use this and pick from this as I'm doing some painting. So to pick the colors from this pair reference and then to paint, first I want to come back to my color layer because remember that I want to paint on this one. I don't want to paint on my reference layer. And you can even lock the layer if you want to prevent that from happening just by clicking the lock right there. Okay, so I'm back to my color layer. Actually, I'm going to lock my drawing while I'm at it. Okay, back to color. I can use this eyedropper tool and pick colors. And what you can see is down here in the bottom, you can see how the color changes as I pick from different areas of the pair. It's underneath, it's a few tools down. It might be hidden underneath your crop tool, so you might have to hold the button down to get to the eyedropper. And then the paintbrush tool is right here. So I can go to the paintbrush tool, just underneath the healing brush. I can make it a little bit bigger. And there's different styles you can use for the paintbrush. Like I can make it a little bit softer around the edges. There's different, these are all have different textures as well with it. So if I like, that looks a little more spray painted. Let's see what this looks like. It's really small. Gotta make it a little bigger. That's pretty nice. It's more like a paintbrush. So maybe I'm going to use that. And I'm going to fill this in. Now if I go outside the edges, I can always come back and erase away. For time purposes, I'm going to try to make this fairly quick. Of course, I can also use selection tools and just fill in color as well. There is, if you hold Alt, you can toggle between the paintbrush and, that means go back and forth between the paintbrush and the color picker. So that's kind of nice because I can go in here and bring some of this light area in. Go back, grab some of this highlight. And if I want to smudge these things together a little bit, there's underneath the gradient or paint bucket tool, just under that is this blur tool, and then down at the bottom is the smudge tool. And so I can up my smudge tool, can turn the hardness down. Maybe I'm going to use the same as what I use for the brush. And I can go in and smudge. Getting a little bit of lag on this one. I think my brush is too big. Too many pixels at once. So give that a second. There we go. Go a little smaller. And actually I'm just going to stick with a typical, I'm going to stick with a typical brush here. But you can see how you can push, you can smudge and blend things a little bit. Can soften. So those are all things that you can kind of play with, experiment with as you're digitally painting. And I don't quite like how that's going there, so I might go back in and paint to clear that up again. Quick, so I'm going to grab my paintbrush, grab this color over here, can maybe go a little bit smaller. Nope, too big. There we go. Just going around that outside. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, now here's the thing I really want to show you, and that is, like, you want to see the lines that are underneath. So what I can do here is, there's a couple different things that actually can happen. Like I could have my reference over top and then change the blending mode of that, or I'm sorry, have my line drawing over top and change the blending mode. Or I can even do it right here too. If I change it to multiply, you can see how my line drawing is coming right through. And so that's pretty nice to see the line still there. It looks more like a It looks more like you're drawing. So I'm going to grab some of the brown and then paint some of this in here in the stem. And if you change the blending mode, you can just go in and just paint and then still see all the lines that are there. Need a little smaller brush to get into some of these areas. But that is the basic idea. I could, if I want to keep these layers separate, I could just take the two of them and I can group them. So if I hold Shift, select both layers, layer, group layers, and then I can name it pair. And I might want to do that just to keep them, so I can go in later and change the painting if I want to make any kinds of changes there. But eventually, if you were done with it, you could go in and say, layer, flatten, or merge the layers to make it all one layer together. And that's a little bit about digitally painting.